If you're on an agency or coaching business, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how we close at 31% on a 9.8K offer from completely cold traffic. These are people who have no idea who we are. We're complete strangers to them, and we were able to close those people at 31% on basically a 10K offer. Okay, now just as a pre-frame to this video, before I implemented the entire sales process I'm going to show you in this video, we would literally, and this is just me being very open and transparent, we was closing at like 5 to 10%. All right, this is probably at the start of the year. On cold traffic, this is right, because myself and my entire sales team had only ever closed people who knew who we were, right? They were very warm people, and that's how we built our sales process. And then we turned on ads, and we tried to use that same sales process on cold traffic, again, strangers who had no idea who we were, and our close rate just tanked. And so I had to rebuild our entire sales process, which is exactly what we're going to go through in this training here. I had to rebuild the whole thing. And once I rebuilt it, that's, as I say, literally when we went from 5 to 10% close rate to now 31% on average. In the last 30 days, we closed at 31% on a 10K offer from complete cold strangers, cold traffic. Okay. So let's just jump straight into it. Now, as a side note, quickly, just before I get into it, if you want access to this doc here, I've got super deep. There's a bunch of scripts here, everything. If you want access to this doc, comment the word sales in the comment section below and we'll shoot it over to you just so you've got access to it. Okay, let's jump into the training. So there's 4 phases to any sales call. And you probably would have heard this before, right? Like this isn't anything revolutionary, okay? There's your discovery, there's the pitch, there's the investment, and then there's the objections, okay? So let's break down each part. And it's really within the breakdown that we found our biggest success, okay? So first things first, in the discovery, there's a few key outcomes here. Number 1, you need to find out if they're qualified, okay? You need to find out if they are someone you can help and they have the resources to move forward, right? And this is obviously from a perspective of money and time, okay? The second thing is you need to get the prospect to sell themselves. You don't want to sell the prospect. You want to get the prospect to sell themselves. How do you do this? The easiest way to do it is by asking them strategic questions, which I'm going to show you here in a minute, the ones that we ask. Ask them those specific questions, and then basically by the very nature of them answering those questions, they're going to realize in their own mind, oh yeah, actually I really do need help. Yeah, actually I really do need this, right? The second thing is here, the easiest way to close any sale is to hold the prospect accountable to answers that they've already given you about their current and desired situation. This is key. Now, where do you get access to these answers? Well, it's in the discovery phase, okay? So you want to get access to specific answers. And then again, as I say, at the end of the call, when it comes to the objection side of things, you then want to hold them accountable to the answers that they previously gave you, okay? Humans always want to appear consistent due to the consistency bias, right? So for example, here's a real life example of this. At the end of the call, if they say, at the beginning of the call, right? You ask them a specific question and they say, yeah, I really need to get this figured out as soon as possible, okay? Well, then at that point, if at the end of the call they say, I need to think about it, or, oh, I want to look at some other people or some other options or whatever it is. Well, because you got this answer here, right, in the discovery, you can now hold them accountable to that answer when they give you the quote, I need to think about it objection. Okay, so it's like, hang on a minute. You just told me earlier on the call that you have to get this figured out as soon as possible, that like, if you don't, your business is going to die, like you're going to lose money, whatever. But now you're saying you want another week to think about it? Like, I'm sensing a disconnect. Help me understand. You put that to the prospect next minute, you know, because again, of the consistency bias, they're going to give you the real reason. Because at the end of the day, no one needs to actually think about it, right? That's a smokescreen for a deeper level objection. Typically, it's uncertainty. They just don't think that you can actually help them with the thing that you're telling them, okay? But again, by holding them accountable, you're going to get access to those real problems, okay? Next is, if they, for example, say, I really need help as I have tried to figure this out for the last 5 months and I'm still not seeing results, okay? Well, then this is going to help handle the objection of I can do this myself. So if the prospect says at the end of the call, oh, I think I can do this myself, well, you can throw back this to them. You just like, earlier on the call, you mentioned that you've been trying to figure this out for the last 5 months. And nothing has ever worked. Now you feel as though, or now you're saying to me that you can figure it out on your own. I mean, what makes you think, like, what's going to be different about the next 30 days versus the last 5 months where you got no results, right? I've tried XYZ in the past and nothing has worked, right? I've tried a bunch of stuff and nothing has ever worked, right? Well, now you can embed their answer here into your pitch, right? So that, again, you can position what you have going on as different and superior to everything they've tried in the past. So, for example, if you're selling Facebook ads and they've said, oh, I've tried Facebook ads in the past and it's never worked. Well, then what would you want to do? Well, then you would want to dive deeper into specifically what have they tried. Okay, so when you ran ads in the past, tell me, what was the funnel that you ran? How did you structure your ads in the ad account? What ads did you run specifically, right? Get access to those things. So then in your pitch, when you're pitching your Facebook ads offer, you can basically imply, it's like, look, here's why you didn't get the results previously when you ran the ads. And here's how we run them differently, which ultimately produce the result that you want, right? But because you've got access to their the previous things they've tried in the past, you can now, as I say, differentiate yourself from those things and position what you have as exponentially better than everything else they've tried in the past, okay? But again, you won't have that ability unless you ask them specific questions in the discovery phase of the call, which is why this part of the call is so important. Most people just have questions on their script and they just ask the questions because it's on their script. No. You never want to ask the questions for your sake. You're always asking it for the prospect's perspective, right? Like if you know the answer to a question, it doesn't matter. You still need to get the prospect to tell you the answer, because at the end of the day, they're not telling you the answers. They're telling themselves the answers. That's really important, right? Okay, so here's some of our best questions. Like we have a bunch of questions that we ask. Typically our discovery is about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes usually. But here are some like really important questions that we always make sure that we get the answers to, because this covers a lot of objections in the back end of the call. So for example, number one is, what would you say? And I've kind of made it into a framework so it's more like replicable for any of you, despite what industry you're in. So, again, here, what would you say is the biggest constraint in your X right now, right? Whatever that may be, in your industry or the common solution, okay? So for example, if it's, you help, I don't know, agencies, which is basically what we help agencies and coaches. Prior to this question, obviously we'll know if they're an agency or a coach, and then we'll go, what would you say is the biggest constraint right now in the agency or in the coaching business, right? And just as a quick side note as well here, I've put all common solution. So here, what you can actually ask is like, if you sell Facebook ads, then maybe you don't ask them, what's the biggest constraint in your business right now? Rather, what you might say is, what's the biggest constraint within your current Facebook ad funnel right now? Or whatever it may be, okay? So you're just trying to get clear on the problem. That's what we're trying to get clear on here, right? Okay, next, gotcha. And what stopped you from figuring that out? / why haven't you just done X? Okay, so for example, if they say again, oh, my Facebook ads are not profitable, for example, I can never increase my ROAS, that's the problem. Okay, gotcha. So just out of curiosity, I mean, what stopped you from going from your average of 2 ROAS to a 6 ROAS or a 7 ROAS or a 5 ROAS? Like what's kind of stopping you? Right? So now we're getting clear on things that are going to help us with the objection of I can do this myself. So if they say, I don't know, like if I knew, I feel like I would have done it, but like I just don't know what else I can do to increase the ROAS. Okay, gotcha. So now again, as I say at the end of the call, if they now start to they then start to say about, I can do this myself. It's like, well, earlier on the call, you said you don't know what the problem is and you've been trying to figure it out for 5 months and you don't know how to fix it, right? Now you feel as though you can do it yourself. Like what's going on, right? Again, really powerful stuff. Another question here is, what have you tried to fix X? Okay, so like now we're looking at solutions. And again, as I say in your pitch, one of the most important things for you to do is position your solution as different from everything else I've tried in the past and superior to everything else I've tried in the past, right? And so what you need to do in order to be able to differentiate yourself as different and superior, you need to be able to understand what they've tried in the past, right? So what have you tried to fix X in the past? / have you tried, and then list common solutions to their problems, okay? And then you want to get clear on what were the results and why did it go the way it went, okay? So if they say, oh, I've tried everything. I've tried this other course in the past. I tried this agency in the past. I tried ads myself in the past, but nothing has ever worked. Okay, gotcha. So I'm curious, why do you feel as though it's never worked out for you? Like, what's been the core problem? Okay. And then they might say, oh, I just feel as though I literally closed the client. This is perfect. I literally closed a client like this, probably back when I was on sales calls like 3 months ago. And she said, yeah, the other people we've worked with, they just never really understood our messaging. Like they never really understood our like position in the market and what it is that we actually help our prospects do. They were just trying to force like this other idea onto the prospects. And it just never really aligned with what it is that we actually do, which I think is really the core reason as to why we never got the result. And then what did I do in my in my pitch? I literally said, and so what we first do is we first get clear on exactly what it is, number one, that you offer clients, and number two, what it is that your clients actually want. Because at the end of the day, we always need to look at selling what your prospects want, and then we need to deliver what they need. So before we create any ads for you, what we actually look at is first, what is it that your prospects want, and how does that tie in with what it is that you deliver? That's what I started my pitch off as. And you can tell by just that one explanation, it already had her hooked in, because she was like, wow, first of all, they're going to actually get clear on exactly who it is that we're serving. And she felt as though the problem with the other agencies was they never got clear on that. So instantly, we are being perceived as different from all the other stuff that she tried in the past that had never failed, that had never worked. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. At any point, guys, if you got any questions on this, drop it in the comment section below and I'll help you out, okay? So the final one here as well. Again, these aren't like every single question that we ask, but these are a couple of the core ones, right? A final one here. Out of curiosity, what makes you want to insert the desired outcome now? Like, why now? Like, why do you want to scale now? I will say, use this one sparingly if you're in the B2B space and you're speaking with somebody who's at 200K a month or 500K a month or $1 million a month, right? Like, the reason I say that is because typically people at that level, there's not really any emotional reasoning behind why they want to double their business or scale or grow, or, there's not really any emotional reasoning behind it. They just want to, So be sparing. Biggest thing I would say here is understand who you're speaking to. Okay, because sometimes people are at 100K a month and they're very emotional. So when we ask them a question like this, it works amazingly well. But then other times, there's some people that we speak to who are like me, where I'm not emotional whatsoever. I'm just like, I just want to grow. You know what I mean? Like if I got on a sales call with someone and they said, like, why now? Like, why is this important to you to, scale now? I'd be like, because I want to. Like, I want to grow. You know what I mean? Like, there's no real emotional reasoning behind it. But for those who are emotional, this is a really good question. Okay. Next, we have the pitch. Okay, so again, in the discovery, what is the goal? Really, we're just trying to get access to all of the information that we can that is going to help us later on in the sale. Okay, so again, if you always get the objection of, for example, oh, I've tried this in the past and it didn't work out for me, right? Like that's the objection that you always get. Well, then what do you need to do in your discovery? Well, you need to get clearer. You need to ask more questions surrounding what have they tried in the past and why didn't it work, right? And then in your pitch, you can position what you have as different from what they've tried in the past and show why it's superior, why it's actually going to work. Another example, if you always get the objection of, I need to think about it, right? Well, again, in your discovery, you need to add in more questions that surround the idea of why is this important to you to move forward now? Like, why do you need to get this sorted now? Why is this so painful? Like, not only why do you need to get it sorted now, but also what is the level of the pain? Because naturally, if there's something's really painful, people are going to want to fix it right now, by the very nature of it being very painful. So you need to increase that pain through the questions that you ask in the discovery phase. So again, we have the ability to hold our prospects accountable to the answers that they gave us during the discovery phase at the end of the call when they're giving us objections. Does that make sense? Cool. So let's go into the pitch. Now, within the pitch, you want to leverage the answers your prospect gave you, as I said before, within the discovery phase to ensure you position yourself as different and superior, or your solution as different and superior from everything else they've tried. Hence, that's the reason why we want to get access to that information. So that is like the biggest thing for the pitch. If you take one thing away from this from this video, it's got to be this right here. If you don't position what you have as different and superior to everything else the prospect has either, number one, tried in the past, or all of the other options the prospect can potentially use to solve their current problem, if you don't position yourself as different and superior to all those things, they'll never buy from you. But if you do, they'll buy from you every single day of the week, okay? Now, the pitch needs to act as a simultaneous explanation as to why everything the prospect has tried in the past has failed and why this is going to be different, right? Really important, these two things right here. And the prospect needs to be able to clearly see the path to success with what you have. This is another important thing. The prospect needs to understand. They need to, in their mind, they need to be like, yeah, that makes sense. Yes, I can see how this is going to get me to my goal. If they can't see that, they'll never buy. If they're confused on the process, they'll never buy. Their prospect needs to be able to logically see, that makes sense. Yes, I can see how this is going to get me my result. And another way for you to easily instill that belief into your prospect is here, as I said, you need to also explain why what they've tried in the past has failed. You need to educate them, right? If they've tried ads in the past and your offer is ads, then you need to, and they've tried ads, as I say, and it didn't work, then you need to educate them. It's like, here's why when you ran ads in the past, it didn't work, okay? And then what's also quite of a nuance to this, but it's very powerful, when you explain why it didn't work in the past, the inverse of that should be exactly what your solution is. So for example, Valdo Albuquerque, if you've ever read the book, The 16-Word Sales Letter, it's a really good book, highly recommend it, it's on copywriting. He uses this example and it's such a good example. So basically, in one of his sales letters, he explained why it was like a stock picker, right? So it's like, we'll tell you what stocks to buy and buy it and then you'll make money kind of thing, right? And one of the, in one of his sales letters, what he said was, here's the reason why you've never been able to make money in the stock market before. The reason is because you get into the, you get into the trade after the news about that trade has already been publicized. So everybody's already got in, and at the end of the day, you've got in too late because all the money has been made. So all the money gets made on the rise, and then you get in at the top. And once it's at the top, there's only one way for it to go. is like in so many words what they were saying, right? And so what he said, he goes, and so instead what we've created is a stock picker, or he used a different word, but we've created a stock picker that allows you to get into the trade before the news becomes public. So before it goes up, we tell you here so that you can ride the up wave and you make the money, essentially, in so many words, right? Read the book. It's a really good book. But does that make sense? So the inverse of why it failed in the past should be what your solution is. And then again, by the very nature of that comparison, it allows the prospect to clearly see exactly this. They can clearly see the path to success. They go, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I can see how now this is going to get me the result that I want. Okay, does that make sense? Also, this is another really important point that I mentioned to a few clients and it like really opened their eyes. Basically, if it's done for you, if what you do for your clients is done for you, it's best to make your pitch overly complex and seem difficult, okay? Now, I go through an example here actually, but let me just say this as well. If it's done with you, on the other hand, it's then best to make your pitch simple to understand and seemingly easy to implement, okay? Super important distinction. Because at the end of the day, if it's done for you, but the prospect feels as though they can do it themselves, they're not going to buy because they're like, why would I pay you to do it when I can do this myself? Because this is super easy, right? Whereas if it's done with you, typically your done with you offers are coaching offers, and typically coaching offers are with prospects who don't actually know about the thing, right? Done with you offers, people usually within reason know how to do the thing, but they just want to pay somebody else to do it because they don't want to do it themselves, but they know how to do it, right? Whereas done with you, typically the person doesn't know the thing, so then you coach them on how to do the thing, right? And so you want to make it seem easily, you want it to make it seemingly easy to understand, because as I say, at that point, they feel as though they can do it, right? If you make it super complex and they need to do it because you're coaching them on how to do the thing and they need to actually do the thing, then probably, it's going to be a harder sell because they're like, oh, this seems super hard. This seems super complex. Like there's so much to this. I don't know if I can do it. Right? Whereas if it's like, oh my God, this seems crazy, seems super hard to do, but you guys do this for me, that's perfect because I don't know how to do this myself. That's what you want. That's why done for you, you always want to make it seem complex. For example, I got this from I can't remember which book of his it was, but it was Oren Clef. He talks about this idea called a flash roll, which is basically where you rapid fire facts, process or your knowledge within a specific domain. Or you rapid fire it. So it seems like overwhelming to the prospect. And then by the very nature of it seeming overwhelming, it seems complex. Okay. This is actually an example word for word from our sales script. We go, and so instead, what we do is we now completely run the ads for you. By the way, this is actually from our sales, like this is what we actually do for clients. We run ads for our clients and book them in sales calls and whatnot, completely done for them. So as I say, in our script, we say, and so instead, we now completely run these ads for you. We build all your copywriting, we create, run and manage your ads and scale once in KPI. We find your offer and market alignment. We speak to your market's core desires, force 100% qualified calls through pixel optimization. We use differentiation and superiority to create an all roads lead to you scenario. We force your market to opt in and book a call through using desire and mechanisms. And we create internal motivation in your market rather than external. This is stuff that we do. We do every single one of these points. We actually take our clients through this exact checklist and we do all of this stuff. We force 100% qualified calls through pixel optimization. We do all of this stuff for our clients. But what my problem was initially was I never told my clients about this. And so all I did was I literally took the stuff that we're already doing for clients and I just brought it to the forefront and I listed it in this way where we flash roll it, we rapid fire through it, and clients kind of get a little bit overwhelmed. But that's good because clients don't need to worry about any of this because we do it all for them anyway. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. So here's the pitch structure, okay? So these are a couple important key outcomes for the pitch. And as I say, here's the pitch structure itself. So your pitch should be made up of 3 to 5 big outcomes / pillars of your solution. Okay, so for example, here's our pillars, okay? We create the VSL, we launch the ads for clients, then we install setters for clients and we increase the DPL, which is dollar per lead for our clients, okay? Again, agency owners and coaches is who we serve. And then we adjust marketing budget to hit projections. Again, this is actually our live example. This is exactly what we do for our clients. Now, within your pillars, where it's seen as a commodity / it's a common approach like a VSL, that's where you need to use the problem, reason, why, solution framework. So for example, what this looks like is this. The problem with how most people do X is Y. Now, here's the ultimate issue with that. And so instead, what we do is X, which ultimately allows us to Y. So again, you're introducing, here's the problem with how you've done things in the past. And so instead, here's how we do it. So that takes what can be seen as a commodity, which in this case is like a VSL. Anyone, people think if they just put a video out on the internet and it's kind of a sales video, they've created a VSL. Now, if that VSL doesn't work, in their mind, they think VSLs don't work, which is ridiculous because VSLs do work. It's just the way they implemented the VSL didn't work, right? And so by the nature of, having commodities such as a VSL or Facebook ads is a commodity, right? You need to introduce those concepts by virtue of this framework right here. Here's the problem with how most people do their ads. And so instead what we do is X, right? Does that make sense? Okay, and remember, within your pitch, your prospect needs to see that this is different from everything else they've tried in the past, and they need to see it's superior, and by extension, they need to be able to clearly see it's exactly what they need to get to their goal, and finally, they need to realize that you are the best or only option to get it. I know I've repeated this time and time again throughout this video, but this is like the most important thing within your pitch, because I promise you that when you get this locked in with your pitch, you'll close everyone. It's crazy how powerful this is. And this is the biggest thing that we reworked. When we went from literally like 5-10% close rate, when we first ever launched ads, and we went to 31% close rate, like this is the biggest thing that I changed was the pitch, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, after that, we go into the investment. So this is the easy part. You just simply need to drop the price, okay? Now, typically it's best to introduce the price by anchoring to a higher number / outcome, okay? And, for example, if you're comparing 10K to 100K, it doesn't seem too bad. But if you're comparing 10K to $500, it seems a whole lot more. Okay, so that's just the idea of anchoring. Very basic. You've probably heard about that before. Now, what's even better here is if you can anchor your price to your guarantee. Okay, so what I mean by this is if you have a guarantee of 100K per month, then the anchor can just be your guarantee. And then when you drop 10K, not only are you anchoring 10K to 100K, which is great because 10K seems a lot less than 100K, but also the 100K isn't some like random number you put out of thin air. That's your guarantee. So that's when that can become really powerful. So for example, again, super basic. This is just a bit of a language pattern here. So we'll guarantee you 150K per month within the next 60 days. And to do that, we charge a one-time fee of 10K. Simple as that. And as I say here, as a quick side note, as you drop your price, shut up. Don't try and explain why it's 10K and try, because then you just sound uncertain. Okay, just be confident when you drop this. It's a one-time fee of 10K. Be quiet. Okay. Now we get into the final section of the call, which is objections. Now with objections, 99% of the time, they're going to be a smokescreen. And basically what a smokescreen is that it's not real. It's covering up for something else. So there's a real reason, and then they give you this smokescreen up here, which is a cover-up for the real reason. So your job in objections isn't to handle the things that they say to you. It's to get to the thing that's underneath the surface, right? They get to the real reason as to why they're not wanting to move forward, and then you handle that thing. Because at the end of the day, if you handle the thing that's on the surface, the thing that they give you, right? You might handle it, but guess what? It's not solved their real reason why they don't want to move forward. So what are they going to do? They're going to just give you another thing on the surface and another one and another one, because you never solve the real thing. So the goal of the objection section of your sales call is to disregard the thing they tell you and dig so you find the real reason. And once you found the real reason, you solve that. Guess what? There's nothing now stopping them from moving forward. Does that make sense? Okay, so yeah, so as I say, they're usually a cover up for something else. And that something else is usually, these are the core reasons why most people won't actually move forward with you, the real reasons why. Most of the time, it's they don't think that they can get the result, right? And when I say here, I put it in caps because what I mean is them specifically. Even if you show them results of other clients winning and all this stuff, if they don't feel that they can get results, despite other people winning, if they don't feel like they can get results, they're not going to want to move forward, okay? The next one is they just don't see the value, okay? So if you're charging 50K for something that in their mind is only worth $1,000, they're never going to buy. And then also, obviously, this is pretty common, they just don't have the money. That's another reason. Now, this is where we need to hold the prospect accountable to their answers. So this is where the discovery phase is going to really come into play, okay? We do this to be able to basically dig deeper under their smokescreen objection and get to the real reason why they won't buy. Because a lot of the questions in the discovery phase are basically getting you ammunition to disregard their smokescreens. So for example, as I say, a smokescreen objection is, I need to think about it. But if you've got a real reason why they need to act today in the discovery phase, they need to get this sorted today, well, then again, that smokescreen of I need to think about it, you can just basically kick that to the side because it's like, dude, earlier on the call, you told me that you need to fix this today because otherwise your wife's going to leave you. Pretty hectic example, I know, but like you get the point. So now you're just going to disregard that I need to think about an objection. Does that make sense? And you're going to be able to then get to the real reason, okay? Let me go back to this section here. So when objection handling, quote unquote, all you're really trying to do, as I said before, is get to the real reason, not the reason they give you. Now, once you found the real reason, you can handle and fix that and then you can make the close, because now if you handle the real reason, there's nothing else stopping them from moving forward. And the easiest way to get them to the real reason is to restate an answer that they gave you earlier in the call and question the real problem. Let me give you some examples. Okay, so you price drop, okay? And the prospect says, okay, well, I never make decisions on the initial call, so give me some time and I'll try and get back to you. Now, I've tried to make these objections as like real life as possible and as common as possible. I know if you've ever taken any number of sales calls, you would have heard this time and time and time again, right? So here's how I would handle it, okay? Using the answers they gave me earlier in the call. I go, I hear you. Now, just out of curiosity, earlier on the call, you mentioned that this is something you have to fix today. Otherwise, your business is literally going to go under and you'll have to go back to your 9 to 5, which, as you mentioned, is the last thing you want to do, right? Now, what I'm just confused on is that now you're saying that you need more time to think about it. And so I'm just kind of sensing a disconnect here. I mean, I'm curious, what's really going on, right? So again, what have we done there? We've used their answer again, well, not against them, but we've held them accountable to an answer that they gave you earlier on in the call. Okay. And now what we're trying to do is we're trying to question what's the real problem? Okay. Like what's really going on here? Okay. And then if they fire back with, for example, oh, I just don't like to make decisions quickly on the call. It's like, cool. I totally understand that. But it seems like this isn't a quick decision because you mentioned you've been struggling with this for the last 3 years, right? And now and we both know that you're not going to leave the call and actually sit down and, really think about it, right? Like giving it time doesn't give you more information, and getting information is the only way for you to make the best decision. And I'm your only source of information. So what's really going on? Right? And this last little part here, this bit here about the information and I'm your only source, I got that from Alex Hormozi. It's really good. But you can see how we're handling the objection based on something that they gave you previously in the call, based on information that they gave you previously in the call. I've reused this bit here as well. It's like you said you've been struggling with this for the last 3 years. So this is not a quick decision, right? And then at that point, they're not going to say, oh, I just need more time. They're not going to refire back with that. Most of the time, then they're going to expose the real reason, which is, oh, I just don't think this is going to work for me. Bang. That's the real problem. So now you can handle that, right? So now you can start to ask questions. Well, why don't you think it's going to work for you, right? And then like if they say, well, I've just, I never went to, I don't know if they would say this, but like I never went to uni. I just don't think I'm that smart enough to get this done. It's like, well, I showed you, Paul earlier, right? He didn't even finish school, and he's now making, 25K per month, and he didn't even finish school. So I'm curious, what makes you think that your level of education in the past is going to stop you from getting to where you want to go now moving forward in the future, despite you not needing any of that education in the past, right? So now you can start to see we're handling the real thing. We're not saying, oh yeah, you need more time to think about it. Cool, go and think about it, right? You don't want to acknowledge the smoke screens. Another example here that we see often with clients, right? This is one thing that we see often amongst our clients. They come to us and like a lot of, I just had a sales call and like, the person thought like they can just do it themselves or whatever, right? Cool. So again, this is how it would look. You price drop, the prospect, 10K. I can just do this on my own. Why would I pay 10K? Right? And side note, by the way, yeah, if you keep consistently getting this objection, then you need to rework your pitch, okay? It's a pitch problem. Now, if you get it once or twice, don't go ahead and rework your entire sales call. Just figure out how to handle it. But if you get this time and time and time and time again, which is what I got when I went to ads with our offer, a lot of people said they felt as though they could just do it on their own. And so that's when I then reworked my entire pitch, right? But yeah, as I say, if you get this consistently, then it's definitely a pitch problem. But if you get it once or twice, here's how I would handle it. 10K, I can just do this on my own. Why would I pay 10K? And this is what you would say. Gotcha, I hear you. Can I be honest with you for a second? I mean, earlier on the call, you mentioned that you've been trying to do this for the last 7 months, right? And you're still unable to, whatever the desired goal is, you're still unable to hit 10K per month. You're still unable to get consistent qualified sales calls on your calendar. You're still unable to do lose weight, whatever it is that you're selling. So it's clear that the current system that you're using isn't producing the results that you want. So I'm curious, what makes you feel as though, say within the next 30 days, you're magically going to start dropping kilos when you've not been able to do that for the last, what makes you feel as though in the next 30 days, you're going to magically start dropping kilos when within the last 7 months, you've only lost 500 grams? Or in the last 7 months, all you've done is gained 2 kilos per week or whatever it may be. Maybe that's a bit aggressive, but you get the point, right? So again, it's like, hang on a minute. It's just a smokescreen, right? But obviously you can't tell the prospect, hey, that's a smokescreen, tell me the real reason. Then obviously that's just never going to work. So again, we use their prior answers they gave us to hold them accountable, okay? Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. That is our entire sales goal process. Obviously this was very much of a overview, right? I think we've got like 8 hours worth of training for clients on this in our course content for our private clients that we work with. So obviously it's hard to compile all of that into like a 30-minute YouTube video, but hopefully from a bird's eye level view, this really helped. Let me just quickly go back through and hit on like the big outcomes of each section. So again, the discovery, we're trying to get the answers from the prospect that we know is going to help us close the sale in the back end of the call. Okay, we need to get those answers from the prospects. And also we need to make sure that they're selling themselves, right? They're telling themselves that they need us. They're telling themselves that they need help, okay? The pitch, you need to position yourself as different and superior from everything else they've tried in the past. And what's more is that you need to make sure that the prospect can clearly understand and see the path to success via your course that you're selling or your done-for-you agency offer that you're selling, whatever it is that you're selling, okay? The investment is really nothing there. Just pitch your price, anchor the price to a higher number so your actual price doesn't seem as bad. And when you drop the price, shut up. And then the final thing is the objections. The objections is we don't want to answer the smoke screens. We want to try and dig deeper to the real problem. And we do that via holding them accountable to answers that they gave you earlier on in the call. Once we find the real root of the problem as to why they don't want to move forward, we need to handle that. And if you handle that thing, whatever that is, typically there's going to be nothing left from stopping them from wanting to move forward, and you can close the sale. Hopefully that helped. If it did, please like the video, comment below if you enjoyed it or whatever. Subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want this doc here with all the scripts and everything like that, comment the word sales below and I'll shoot that over to you. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next training.